man.
Stop what you're doing right now. Go find a cigar and some whiskey. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the show.
We're back.
We're just here.
We're back.
Having a lot of fun. We figured we'd change it up because I don't want to be stuck inside.
Got 1 star.
And this is an episode. One little star. The North Star. One little scuff on my siding back here. But because all you creeps out there that want to know the intricacies of our personal lives. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You know what I'm talking about. Want to know about us and what we do and things like that. So
all the things
we're going to be, we'll give the people what they want to an extent.
Yes.
Freaking bugs. And that extent is we'll give you just a taste, just to leave you wanting more.
There you go. What's the best way to do it?
So that way you can be real creepy, like my sister, looking at you, Colleen. And just Facebook stalk me. Also you, Lance, if you watch this. Yeah, you know I'm talking about you. Being real creepy. Well, it could be like a PI. Private investigator firm. Mm-hmm. Strictly on Facebook.
There you go.
So anyway, yeah, this is an episode all about us. Because we're so vain, and I can't wait.
We are. Yeah. And we just live really interesting lives.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, it's
we
riveting.
Want you to know about it.
That's why you guys are here. Hear about our interesting lives.
It's all about us.
What are you smoking tonight? I've got a little cigar and a waffle. Smoking a pancake.
Smoking a pancake.
Bong the blitz. Pipe and a grape.
I've got a Gran Habano. It's actually
right.
You got a little
barber pole.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoy barber poles. I've got a barber pole butt in my ashtray. I'm going to be smoking on a Superfly.
Ooh.
I don't get paid yet, but I will. Oscar Valladares. I know you're going to watch this.
Yeah,
but it is.
Exactly.
It's a wonderful display. It's like super 70s kind of style. It's got pink velvet interior. Yeah, fancy. So
I feel like
that's what I'll be smoking on.
Some 70 music right here.
We're about to get real intimate. Little Barry White.
I can't do the rest of it.
What? Can't do the rest of what?
The rest of that.
Barry White?
Yeah, Barry White. What was that?
Sorry, I think it was technical difficulties, everybody.
The Gentleman.
Oh. That would not be appropriate for our young viewers.
Yeah, I can't finish the rest of it. But
with the HE double hockey stick, folks.
What's happening?
Seem to have misplaced my lighter. My torch.
Also,
raw and uncut. Welcome to it.
Yep. Also, Wyatt, if you are watching this, I still have your torch lighter.
Lucky. Wyatt is smoking cigars.
Cigars and pipes.
Wyatt.
Regularly. Yes.
You're smoking cigars and pipes? Wow, you're really aging me. And it doesn't make me feel good about myself. So good for you. But
I know. Well done. But it's sad.
It's sad. Just, yeah. No, I mean, it's not sad necessarily.
It's sad how old we're getting.
There it is. And Drew, if you're watching this, can't find it, Kyle. The old nickname reigns true.
Forever and ever.
All right. So let's get into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's stop boring the people.
Let's get after it. So, what are we thinking? You want to go first?
What do you mean? Huh?
You want to chit-chat? Well, first of all...
my name's Kyle.
As is mine.
What's your name? Okay. That's good to know. So we're both Kyle, and we're friends. One of us is cool enough to live in a town called Kyle. I'll let you figure that out for yourself as to who that is. by the time you're watching this, you'll have already watched the other podcast that, gives it away. But also,
I am a little upset that I didn't go down for that to represent you.
I know we were
weekend.
800 some short
from being the world's like the world record. Really, man.
Yep.
No Kyles could commit. I mean, even the Kyles that were there abandoned.
It's almost 3,000 is the record. So there was a decent amount of Kyles committing, but
that's a lot of Kyles. How big is your Kyle spot?
It's about 55,000. Something like that.
All right. So big enough to house all 3,001 Kyles.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm just saying, that's pretty.
Yeah. So for those of you listening, watching, that don't know what the heck we're talking about, I live in a town called Kyle, and they are continuously trying to break the world record of the most amount of people with the same name in the same place. And since it's a town called Kyle, they go for Kyles. So they attempted it last year. I think maybe last year was the first time they attempted it, and they failed. And they went for it this year. And of course, the one weekend where it pays to be Kyle from Kyle, I was out of town. So I was not in attendance. I was one of the 800 that didn't show up.
I know. You live in Kyle. You're Kyle from Kyle. And
I was out of town. Abandoned. It's not my fault. I planned this trip that I went on before they planned this world record breaking.
Right. So, yeah. Both named Kyle. Actually, you have like Kyles surround you like a magnet.
Yeah, it's just
you're actually the center, and all Kyles come to you.
I'm the black hole of Kyles. Is that what you're trying to say? I'm the densest Kyle there is.
I didn't want to go full on to the fact that you are the black hole, but yes, yes, you are.
Yeah, that's me, the black hole of the Kyles. So my second eldest sister had married a Kyle, and her name's Katie, and we're only going to do first names because all you creeps out there. So,
got to keep them.
And then my wife, Caitlin, kind of similar to Katie, she married a Kyle. My wife married a Kyle. Go figure. Her brother's name is Kyle, and then we got married first. I just want to throw this out there. But then her brother decided he was going to marry a Caitlin and just be, continue the chain. We couldn't break it. So I can't even make it up. It is literally Kyle and Caitlin, both couples.
It literally is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The most ridiculous thing
and their names are spelled, there's one letter off, but they're similar. Yeah. So there's that. And then you. So you are married to my wife's cousin, which I think we said that in the first episode.
I believe so.
Or I'm married to your wife's cousin, either way. And your name's Kyle. And we're friends, so here we are.
Just all the Kyles. All the Kyles. And then you literally were such a black hole that you brought a city to you. Which, obviously, I know that's the opposite. But still, you just are the black hole of
I was
Kyles.
just drawn to it, Like my fist to drywall. And my tongue to monster.
So.
Can't stay away.
So let's see. We already talked about friendship stuff. That's good. We already figured all that stuff out.
Friendship stuff.
Friendship stuff.
All right, what's the next
Episode 1 done now.
In the bag.
Let's see. Adult stuff. All right, so we talked about wives. So
I don't really know much about adult stuff. Not there yet.
I know. No, trying to avoid that with like the plague. Let's see. So we both have 2 boys. I've got 2, Jude and Wells. Jude
I named mine both Kyle.
If you did, Caitlin would kill you.
Kyle Jr. 1 and Kyle Jr. 2.
You just call them 1 and 2. Just like, 1, get over here.
Yep.
It just makes family time just a lot of fun. That's way actually it's a perfect idea. You could dodge ever getting in trouble if you name. So then you could just like, oh, that was the kid instead of you. See, well done. I like this thought process. I did not do that. My oldest is Jude, and he's gonna be 5 in. Okay, let's see, end of August, and then Wells will be 2 in the end of June. So, doing pretty well so far. And we're back.
Yep, sorry for those technical difficulties, folks. I know you didn't experience any of those technical difficulties, but we certainly did.
It has been...
Just kidding. Thanks, Krista. Hold on. Yes, hello. How can I help you? Well, I didn't want to put you on speaker because I didn't know if I was about to get personal or not. But no.
Our
first caller.
Thinking about it. Oh, hello.
Ooh, hello.
Okay. Anyway, watch that sermon because it's really good.
All right, I'll give her a whirl.
Oh, okay. That's what it is.
Both of you, tell Kyle.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Bye. I love you.
I love you too.
And also, I'm enjoying your podcast. Very, very good. Keep it up.
Okay. There you go.
Yep.
Look at that.
Love you too. Bye. Thanks. Bye. And we're back.
We're back again.
For the 4th time. Yeah. Welcome to the 8th episode.
We're for sure going to have to put "we're back" as the beginning clip. Just so.
Yeah. And you could probably edit out that whole thing. You could edit out that whole thing, but use it as like the teaser, and then it'll never come. You know, people are like, oh, where was that part?
It'd be perfect.
Yep.
All right, great. So, we're back.
Back at it. So we left off somewhere around my children.
Yes, your children.
Right. My children. I have them. They exist.
You do.
Yep.
2 boys. Not named Kyle, but should have been named Kyle.
No, they are. Kyle Jr. 1 and Kyle Jr. 2. I call them 1, 2.
1, 2.
I'm a big Gerard, 1 and think 2. No, I'm a big Gerard Butler fan.
Oh, little 1, 2.
If you don't know. Oh, you won't know.
Mm-hmm.
No, they are Atlas and Maverick. So, big Tom Cruise fan.
Mm-hmm. It's just as like clearly a movie fan, really.
Yeah, I'm a huge movie guy, but we're not into that yet. Okay, we're just still talking about children.
Sorry. All right, we're still in the children.
You gotta hold back. Savor it.
It's because you were the one who brought up.
Let the people want more. Anyway,
moving on.
Yeah, Atlas and Maverick, and unique names. Cool. Yeah, it's what happens when your name's Kyle and your wife's name's Caitlin. The 2 most basic. It would have been worse if her name was Kayla. I think Kayla is the female equivalent of Kyle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kayla was the girl that would break up with Kyle and he would punch drywall,
for sure,
to show his frustration.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, super basic. And we're like, you know what? We're going to go a little more unique. So there we are. We didn't know how to follow up Atlas for a little while, but big Top Gun fan here. And my wife actually came up with the name, and then I'm getting just demolished with bugs, just FYI. So,
yeah.
But she came up with the name, and I'm like, duh, yes. And then also Maverick Vinales, who is a MotoGP racer, and I like him, so it worked.
And you like him. That's all that matters.
Yep, he's a good one.
Yeah.
So anyway,
same thing with us is
MotoGP
Kyle
racer
and
too.
Haley.
Nice. Okay.
Yes, obviously. But yeah, Kyle and Haley. We went with Jude and Wells, which Jude isn't like super far off. But Wells is not very common.
Jude the dude.
So, Jude the dude. So, but Wells was one where people were like, "Oh, I haven't heard that before," and so.
Don't you love that?
We did the same thing.
People are like, "Oh, what are your kids' names?" And you tell them, like, "Oh, I've never heard that before."
Which is like,
I don't care if you don't like it.
The soft insult.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's what interesting. That's
name.
Super unique. Yeah,
like garbage trash.
We live in Austin area. suburbs of Austin. So for us, it's like, yeah, the church we go to, there's some wild names, man. And it's
you're the
let it rip, I guess.
California of Texas.
Yeah, there's a legend. His name's Legend. There's a lot of other stuff. Just the one.
Wow.
They're all Steve and Bill, and there's one Legend.
You have a church of like what? How many people?
Lots.
So you have way more than just Legend.
Well, there's also like Fox and Winter and things like that. So there are unique names. So Atlas and Maverick, just they're kind of boring compared to some of them.
Blend right in. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a Reign, but it's I believe REIGN, like he reigns. You know what I mean?
Nice.
I believe. Yeah. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's how it's spelled. That's a girl.
I like it.
So anyway, enough of all that crap.
Yeah. So what do you do, Kyle? What do you do on your day-to-day
tell me,
when you're
Kyle,
not podcasting at night?
Why are you referring to yourself in the third person, you creep? I am in private security management. So really, I don't do anything.
It sounds like a mafia. Like
it's a made up
private security. I'm in private security. Oh, so you're a hitman. Oh, it's nice to know.
Yeah. No. I work for a company that performs private security. So we do fun stuff, we get to do a lot of the things that I love. Shooting, big fan of shooting sports, and anything that involves guns. When I was younger, I used to chew my toast into the shape of a gun and go pew pew. Not joking. That actually happened. And the funny thing is Atlas does the exact same thing with everything. He's got these little magnetic letters, and he'll take the L's, little tiny L's, and he'll like grab them and go pew pew pew. So, and I didn't teach it. I didn't teach him that. He's done it on his own.
See,
and he loves it.
Apple does not fall far from the tree.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's guns are real big in my life. It's part of my religion. This is the way.
This is the way.
Yeah, religion is man-made, so. You know what I mean? Which I think we talk about that in our Holy Week
episode. Second episode. Yep.
Look at us.
We did.
Referencing back. So we
gotta tie things together.
Yeah. So we because of that, because religion is man-made, I can still be a Christian, and guns are part of my religion. So
there you go. Bam.
Yep. It works.
So mine is a little less violent of a career. So I'm a counselor. So pretty much I sit in a chair all day, chit-chatting with people about all sorts of good stuff. Yeah, pretty much. Except for I do more.
You see what I'm
listening.
doing right now? This is what I do. I get paid for it. Just I don't record it.
And I didn't get enough. So I was like, you know what? Let's talk some more. But mostly,
do you really get to do a lot of talking at your job?
It's kind of back and forth. Ironically, I do more talking than I thought I was going to, because it helps people. Like, people don't want to come in and sit there and just like talk and me say nothing. So it's more like, I think it puts people at ease when I talk. You should
try that sometime. Just like one, pick the right person. No, just don't say a word, but like sit there and nod and and do like little grunts and stuff like that. Like,
Ironically,
see how long you can do it before.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The funny thing is, in school, that's what they train you to do, is to not say anything and just kind of encourage them, but don't say anything. So like one of the biggest things like that you learn is awkward silences, how to just sit and let someone, and just like all the cringiness of like no one saying anything and they're trying to figure out if they should say something. Like, you got to get used to it, because oftentimes they need to say something and aren't at that point yet. So like you just got to give them space. But it's like a real deal. Like you got to learn how to sit in the awkward silence. So that's pretty much what I do. I either talk or I'm in awkward silence.
It's fun.
And that's the work. So I see adults for trauma, addictions, and marital. So those are
all of my favorite things.
Yep.
I don't think I could ever do that job. You know what I mean? I can be serious, but I need humor in my life. You know what I mean? Like I just can't help it. There'd be times where I can have a serious conversation and I can, have a heart to heart with somebody and that sort of thing. But I feel like I'd probably want to try and incorporate humor into it. And it probably just would never end up well.
Oh no. I use humor all the time. Like you can't drown yourself in the negative. Like you have to actually like, especially at the end, I typically depending on what it is and what's going on, like I try to help them kind of come back together to recognize that even though we went into that traumatic space, like that's not all that's there. And also I feel bad like when people are like sobbing and going to the front desk and then having to make another appointment. So I usually try to like help like transition them out. And so I use humor all the time because you gotta have balance. So wading into the pain and sorrow, and then humor to also help them recognize like that's not all that is there. So you got to be comfortable with kind of both. But yeah, I can't not have humor. Like ironically, humor is super helpful for marital. You gotta have some humor in marital, or like it's not good. So
are you ever afraid that you're just going to get yourself into trouble? Like maybe you make a joke and it just like lands flat in an awkward well, you thrive in the awkward silence, so it works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so like straight face and you're like, all right, don't worry about it. This is where I live in the awkward silence. I can totally outlast you.
Yeah, no, ironically I have had one time where I made a joke and it wasn't anything like crude or anything like that. It was a joke about like just like marriage in general and how it's like tough. And I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like frustrated at something we had been working on and literally just looked at me. The other spouse was not in that space, so they were like laughing and like giggling, and the other just hardcore, just staring at me and was not happy. And I was just like, all right, well, let's
moving on.
Go ahead and end there. We'll start the session up next time. But I mean, most of the time, it's just being able to be comfortable with talking. So ironically, you probably be good at it. You have to like develop the skill of the awkward silence and all the other stuff. Like that's a skill based. Like I didn't know how to do that well when I started. Like, but I do tell people all the time that the skill that I have that's helpful is the fact that whenever I'm with someone, I really don't think about anything outside of that space. Like, my wife is always upset with me when I say it, but I'm like, I literally don't think about my kids. I don't think about my wife. I don't think about anything.
Yeah. That's just our personality. I feel like, cause I feel terrible sometimes, but I live so much in the moment a lot of the time. And like, I'm trying to be better about planning for the future and all that fun stuff that adults have to do. But, I live so much in the moment that if it's not in that moment, it doesn't exist sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the fact of the matter. And I know that sounds weird, but like, that's what kind of helped me through Afghanistan, I feel like. Speaking of segues, so back to, about us.
Back to us.
Yeah. Yes. Back to us. Gosh, I can't believe we even strayed.
Why would we?
I was in the military for 12 and a half years. And I never went overseas with the military. And then I found a way to go over as a civilian and went to Afghanistan contracting, security contracting. And while I was there, I think I was there for 9 months, 9 months. And it's easy for me to adapt. I think, I got homesick from time to time, but it's easy for me to adapt in situations like that because I just live so much in the moment that Caitlin eventually became, and this is going to sound terrible for those of you who never felt this. But she kind of like my wife, she was my wife, but she was like, my wife was just somebody I talked to on FaceTime and I loved and I missed and I couldn't wait to see. But like, I mean, it just became life, like that was life. And it was hard to like everything before that, even though I was only there for 8-9 months, everything before that was like, oh, I remember that. Those are memories, but like, this is life now. And it just became normal. And it happened pretty quick. And then when I got home, I just remember it was super weird when she picked me up from the airport. And I'm like, this is happening.
And
like,
you saw her like your lower half.
You're
body.
Real. Yeah, you're real. It's not just
like, you have legs.
Yeah. And so it was just super weird feeling. I mean, that went away pretty quick. And, but going home and seeing the dogs and everything and them going crazy. I didn't have kids at the time. And it was just, and then I think back now about Afghanistan, even like right after, it's like, yeah, those are memory, but like this is life. And I adapted pretty quick. And so I live in the moment a lot. And if it's not in the moment, it just doesn't exist. It's not there. So I have a lot of friends that I love dearly that are like best friends and I would die for. But if you're not here with me and I'm not thinking about actively thinking about you, you don't exist. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's going to be real.
I know. Isn't it the weirdest thing? Like, but it's super helpful in Afghanistan and it's super helpful in counseling. Like, I don't think about clients when they're not with me, and
which my brain does awesome.
Yes, super helpful. Yeah. Super helpful. I don't know how people do it when they don't have that ability. Like, my brain doesn't think about it until I see faces, and then my brain brings back all the memories of like our interactions and stuff like that. And that's
it's like you never left. You just picked up and there you go.
Yes. Like, it's super helpful, but like tip of the hat to the counselors that keep it all, like all the time. Yeah. Like, I definitely could not do this job if I did that. So I don't know how people function that way. So everybody's like, man, it's so impressive. Like, how could you take all that in and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't.
Just don't.
This is just not that impressive in the moment. I don't. Yeah.
But I feel like counseling has got to be probably a pretty good career field to have that as well, though, because you're 100% in the moment. You know what I mean? You're 100% with your clients. You're 100% there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's got to be a good attribute to have.
Yeah. Super helpful. I think it'll allow me not to get burnout. Because I just, when I'm a counselor, I'm a counselor. When I'm home, and those do not cross. So, it's super helpful, but I think that's something, but again, like you said, it gets me into trouble. Like, I was joking around, with somebody. I was like, yeah, it's super helpful in counseling, but, go ahead and ask my mom how helpful it is in personal life, because I will forget to give her a call. And then she'll be like, what are you doing? And as soon as she reaches out, or I see something with her, I'll be like, oh shoot. And then I'll reach out. But like us, like we talked about in that episode, we never talked like when we lived in the same town, because we just didn't see each other, and that was it. But like, unless you make it a routine, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I used to think, like, especially in Illinois, when I lived in Illinois, and I used to kind of think that it's with certain people, like, oh man, we never see each other, and like we can't really be good friends because we never see each other, and like, but the more I think about it, the more I realize, like, it honestly, like, I've got best friends, I would say, that I just don't, they live in a different state or whatever. And you just don't see them and you don't talk to them. And it's not that I don't care about them or love them and want to hang out and be with them. It's just, we got our own lives, you know, and you get wrapped up in your own life. You got kids, you got work, you got a wife and everything. And you have to give them a lot of your attention. And when I get a chance, you know what I mean? If they cross my mind, I'll shoot them a text and hopefully start a conversation. But yeah, it's a lot.
It is.
Well, that's a great podcast. You know, thanks for joining. Sorry, I keep like looking off to the side and all around, but you know, clearly I'm outside and I'm not screened in, and there are vicious wild beasts out here.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
don't let them fool you.
Pretty
they go by a cute little nickname, you know, called June Bug. Oh, that's so cute, little pet name. They're not. They're vicious demons that are sent from the depths of hell. So
now, do you remember
they're floating around?
Cicada that tried to kill you?
Yeah. Okay. Those are pure evil.
Those are actual demons from hell.
Evil. I can deal with June bugs. Like if a June bug lands on me, okay, whatever, I'll flick it off. But they're just annoying because they like cling and their flight patterns are erratic. Cicadas are the same. They cling and their flight patterns are erratic and unpredictable, but they're also this big and they make a demon noise from hell. And
they really do.
They're a demon spawn, period. End of discussion.
Really
God didn't create them. They were born out of pure hate.
Yeah.
So
by Satan himself.
Yep. Yeah. And I will kill them with extreme prejudice.
Passion.
So moving on.
Yes. But I was going to say
some more about us.
Let's see. What's some more about us? I was going to say, I think that's one thing that's true about like being a dad and being a husband. It's such an all-encompassing aspect that I think you can get lost in it really easily. Mm-hmm. And then it's kind of hard to find the balance between things. And because like, well, obviously with your wife, you find like somebody who like is your best friend. So especially for someone who is in the moment all the time, I'm like, I don't really need anybody else. Like I see you all the time. So you're going to be pretty much the person I talk to all the time. And, you know, and so in reality, like I did that for years. Like mostly I just hung out with my wife. And that was about it. And really until I started to do some things with guys, I really didn't feel like there was like a need to have anybody else than my wife. But like, then I started to do guy stuff.
And there certainly is. Yeah, there's certainly a need for men to be with men and women to be with women. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you need to be able to have guy time and alone time. You know what I mean? I think all of those things are important to balance. And that's part of being an adult is finding a good way to balance those things with wife time and kid time and all that sort of stuff that comes along with being a responsible adult. But it's a challenge, but it's a fun one. And it's also like a give and take. There, like, I go through seasons sometimes, but like when I lived in Illinois, I don't think I was as good of a husband. And if you talk to Caitlin now, probably, still got a lot of work to do. I know I got a lot of work to do, but I had all sorts of friends that lived in the area. I had all sorts of family, and it was easy to distract myself with them. And it's like, well, I'm gonna hang out with them just as much as I used to. Duh, they're my best friends, and blah blah blah. And Caitlin had her friends and her family and that sort of thing, so it was kind of easier for us to be somewhat separate. And then moving to Texas, we knew nobody. We knew one person actually, but she lived. So in Austin, there's a river, the Colorado River cuts through downtown Austin. And for everyone that lives north of the river, you're just not going to see people that live south of the river. It's just fact of the matter. Yeah.
The segregation of Austin.
Yes. So we try to bridge that gap as much as we can, and see as many people as we can. But So we live north and she lives south. And so although we knew one person, we rarely ever saw her. And so it was just us, you know what I mean? Like it was just Caitlin and I. We didn't have kids at the time. We had our 2 dogs. And so we had to learn to be with each other, you know, to like, that sounds terrible, but we had to learn to like
learn to
only have each other,
wife,
only rely on each other. You know what I mean? We had no friends, we had no family in the area. And so, we had been married for 5 years at the time when we moved here. And it was one of the greatest things to happen to our marriage, I think, you know, because we just had so much fun. We had so much fun. We still do. It's different now with kids, but we had so much fun.
We had so much fun. It was a great run we had.
And then it was gone with Atlas.
Then everything just, but he loves being a dad. He really does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's so much fun. And so we just had so much fun just being home together. You know what I mean? Like we would go out and do stuff and go out on date nights and everything. But I would say the 2 best things that happened to our marriage was moving to Texas away from friends and family, and then me going to Afghanistan. And I know that sounds kind of weird to some, but
both of them
others
are abandoning something. Abandoning family.
No, it's not
abandoning.
No, absence makes the heart grow stronger for sure.
That's true.
And so, I think it helped. It gave us time to work on ourselves as human beings. And Caitlin really hit her stride and became very self-sufficient and independent. And like, I just remember there was one time we were having a conversation on FaceTime. Sorry for my shaky camera, by the way. But we were having a conversation on FaceTime, and she was talking about putting up blinds or something in the apartment. And then like a couple of days later, we were talking again, and she had done it. Like she did it by herself. She hung up these blinds, and I just remember like listening to her and talking about how she was like so happy she did it. And I just had this like, I was just filled with pride for her. Like I was just so happy for her. I'm like, yes, that's so awesome. Like, and it's something so simple, right? Putting up blinds, but she like tackled this thing that she's never done before. So although it's simple for me, it wasn't simple for her, but she like did it, and she was so happy and proud of herself. And I just remember it being a big moment. So then not only that, but then also it gave us a new appreciation for each other. You know what I mean? I finally came home, and that's when it really happened. Cause like, while I was there, I'm like, man, I could do this forever. Like, this is great. Like, this is great work. And I know that sounds weird, you know, again, being in Afghanistan, but it's just how I'm wired and the way my brain works is that it just came somewhat natural. But then coming home and then being with her again, it was just like this renewed vigor, you know, for my wife. And I think our marriage was extremely strong, and then kids came, you know, and no, honestly, I think kids coming also was a great thing for our marriage, and continues to be, because we're constantly learning. And I think we're growing as people, with parenting. And I'm never going to say that I learn more from my kids than they learn from me, because that's stupid and that should never be the case. But that doesn't mean you should never learn from your kids. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I learn from my kids a little bit, but my kids put me in situations that cause me to learn. You know what I mean? That like cause me to grow as a person.
Forces you to learn a ton
and become more mature. And
maturity. Like I was just talking to a client, and I was just talking about like maturity through having children. I just don't know if there's any other way you mature as much in a.
Are you sure you were talking to a client and not me on Marco Polo?
I might have been talking to you, but I also talked to a client. Sometimes I use very good things, and then
because you had a Marco Polo either today or yesterday, where you were talking about that exact same thing.
I don't know if you were if I talked to you first or I talked to a client, and then I was like, "This is good. Like this is smart. Like this is real," and I wanted to talk to you about it. But it's true. Like I can't imagine maturing in any other rate than having another human being completely rely on you, like for everything, to survive, and then you having to adapt your entire life around that individual. Like it just forces maturity if you're a good parent. Now you can punt that responsibility for sure, but if you're trying to be a good parent, you have to mature, because you have to not do the things you want to do. Like you can't sleep as much, and you're not going to do all your stuff you want to watch, and you know, watch Bluey all the time. And like, so there's just like a lot of things, which by the way, Bluey's awesome. And
we don't watch Bluey.
Oh, dude, I love Bluey. I love the dad on Bluey. It's just so funny. Anyways, moving on. But when you were talking about Afghanistan, me and Haley had our own Afghanistan, and it was, and it was.
You mean it lasted 20 years?
I can't even say it.
It was a terrible blowout.
It was living in Dunlap for 9 months.
What?
So in the beginning, we were very poor. So we didn't have a lot of money for gas.
In the beginning, man, I wish it was just in the beginning for us.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about
5 minutes ago, we were very poor.
We were so poor that Dunlap might as well have been Austin, Texas, because we were not going to see anybody.
So it's not Afghanistan, it's Austin.
No, all right.
It's you moving.
It's more like Austin.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there weren't like little giant spiders.
That's a better
trying to attack me.
analogy.
But yeah, so it was like Austin for us.
That's
for
not
those
real.
9 months.
I mean, camel spiders exist, but it's not much of a thing.
Not big?
I've seen bigger spiders here in Texas.
Really?
I've seen camel spiders. Yeah, like the whole they get big, but those are, I don't want to say anomalies because they're more common there. You know what I mean? Seeing something that big than they are here. But that's primarily Iraq actually. But they had camel spiders in Afghanistan, but they weren't the biggest one you'd see is like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm.
And they get into things,
but yeah, like I think the beginning of that really helped our marriage because we just didn't have the funds to be able to go see people in the city. So we were just alone, like a lot of times, just us. Yep. And sometimes people would visit us, but rarely because everybody else we knew was poor. And so we just didn't see anybody for like 9 months. And it does really help, like not having those distractions.
Yeah.
But I think we swung a little hard and we really didn't re-engage with people for like a couple of years. We were mostly hanging out with like family and then ourselves. And we were like, oh, we're actually pretty good. And then as we started to mature, we had kids. Like that was a big thing too, because you need more of that kind of like individual stuff when you're constantly being a parent. Cause you're like, I got to do something like smoke a cigar and sit outside and talk to people. Like you need that to be able to just break it. So it just is funny because ironically, very similarly, like your guys' move to Austin, our time in Dunlap did kind of similar things. Not as intense.
Absolutely. It's just it's the isolation. You know what I mean? Where like you as a couple are isolated from your friends and family to an extent. And, it's not like we were completely cut off, but we had no one else but us. We had no other choice. And it's a very make or break situation. You know what I mean? Like same with Afghanistan. I've seen deployments. I've seen field training exercises that last 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Now it's not that 2 to 3 weeks that destroyed the marriage, but it was all the stuff that led up to it that broke the marriage, right? It's a make or break situation and they chose break. And, a very good friend of mine, we were gone for 3 weeks and he came back and found out his wife was cheating on him, or had cheated on him during those 3 weeks. Yeah. So it's like, it's a very make or break type of situation, and it just depends on the relationship and where you're at. I'm a firm believer that cheating is never the problem. It's just a symptom of the problem. And I'm sure you have more to say on that, given your line of work. But it's anyway, I think it's that kind of type of isolation for the couple, and then also separation, for the couple that can do it. And I know for my parents, I think it really strengthened their relationship as well. When my dad was deployed, and that separation, because again, it's just that absence makes the heart grow stronger. So, and I remember, that like when my dad was in Louisiana for a year, and he would get, 72-hour passes or whatever, and he'd come home for a little bit, and my mom would literally be like, "Hey, your dad's coming home for the weekend. Looks like you're staying the night at a friend's house." And like my family is very open, which it's not like we were like blabbing, kissing and telling necessarily, but like we all knew what was happening. And that might sound weird to some. And it was kind of like, "Oh, Mom, come on," like whatever at the time. But to me, that's healthy, like you shouldn't be ashamed of that. No. Like sex is awesome, as when it's between a man and a woman and they're married, in a covenant between them and God, but it's awesome. And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing shameful about it. And it's like, abso-freaking-lutely, especially now that I'm, like we've been through Afghanistan and everything. It's like, I would have kicked my kids out of the house in a heartbeat if that was the situation.
Going for a second honeymoon here.
I'm going to kick you guys out. And anyway.
As you should. Like, that's the thing is like, and I always tell people, like, the marriage is going to outlast the kids. The kids are here temporarily. They're going to come and they're going to go.
You know what I mean? Our marriage isn't now.
But it literally is. Like, I'm like, you got to go for longevity here. You got to do the things that are going to sustain you, because these kids
you can't have a marriage that's centered around your kids.
No.
Because
I love my kids.
18 years, sometimes sooner, sometimes a little bit later, sometimes a lot of bit later. But your kids will go off and do their own thing, and if your marriage is held together by your kids, it's going to fall apart the moment they leave. So, which I'm sure you've seen all too often. I've seen multiple times.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like. I tell Haley all the time, I'm like, I love raising kids, but like, I'm super excited for the chapter after that. Like, I can't wait for us to be just the two of us again. Like, I think all stages are so much fun. And like, that's the thing is like enjoying them where they're at to also be excited for the next. But like, the thing that I know is that I want to do all those stages with my wife. And if I am not having like not just fun, but like enjoying that season with my wife, then that's a problem. And like, I'll do whatever to rectify it. Because I could not imagine coming home and not being excited to see my wife and my kids. Like, obviously, every single time like I get home, I'm excited to see like, and I obviously counsel people who are not, and I'm like, gosh, that would suck. Like, I could not imagine.
It's like it's a vicious negative feedback loop as well, because it's, you're not excited because one reason or another, maybe you got in a fight, maybe you're resentful because of this, that, and the other. And then you come home, you're not excited to go home because your wife's there and, oh man, I'm going to get nagged or I'm going to get this, that, and the other. And then you get there, and because you're feeling this way, you've got a bad attitude, and that leads to more issues. And it's just this like cycle. That's just it. It's a negative feedback loop. And I feel like it just deteriorates, and, which is, we don't need to get too much into divorce, because by this time everyone will have listened to an entire episode on divorce. This whole thing was supposed to be about us. What the heck?
No, I know.
We're not sticking to it.
It's our family. So, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
so I grew up in
what else is there?
Podunk, BFE, Illinois, and don't look that acronym up. It's not a good one. But it's very fitting of the place I grew up.
But it is accurate.
So, yeah,
not a good
sure.
one.
Well, so I tell people here, when people are like, "Oh, where are you originally from?" I'm like, "Oh, Peoria," because technically, I was close to Peoria. I was like 10, 15 minutes from Peoria. But then I'm like, well, when we get into conversation, then I'm like, oh yeah, I grew up in a small farm town called Brimfield's where I went to high school and everything. And then from there, if I really think of it, like the closest township was actually Kickapoo. You know what I mean? Because I didn't live in a township. We lived, out in the country and small, like, I don't know, neighborhood surrounded by cornfields and everything. But the closest township was Kickapoo, which is a population of like 300. Mm-hmm. And so I've just like, anytime from now on, when anybody asks like, oh, where are you originally from? Kickapoo. And I'm just going to say it like they know, like, of course you've heard of it. Why not?
Obviously.
The only thing that Kickapoo had going for it was it's like baseball diamonds, Catholic church, and like 3 bars. And a Shell station.
That was it.
That's Kickapoo. Welcome to it.
That was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It really was.
But a lot of good times. So that's where I grew up, and then moved into the big city of Peoria. Woo-hoo. And was a little hoodlum. And then
really were.
Got married, moved away, and moved into Austin. The city of Austin. And then even further into Austin, we moved like South Austin, and like we were a lot closer to downtown, and then now we're moving further out. I was like, what? There's a town called Kyle? I have to move there.
Boom.
They must have so much drywall and an endless supply of Monster.
Yeah, so let's see. Well, mine's not as exciting. I did not.
Well, for those of you, because I've made that joke multiple times, but for those of you, not to cut you off, but for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about with the drywall and the Monster, get on the internet. Just, you know what I mean? Figure it out. No, just Google Kyle memes, and everything that pops up is going to be likely drywall or Monster related. And they're hilarious. I love them. Absolutely love them.
They are. They're a good time.
Yeah.
And an endless rabbit hole.
Yeah. But, so now we live here. And, go ahead.
Yeah, so mine is, we moved to Dunlap, which is about the same distance, maybe a little bit far. No, probably like the
You're
actual...
kind of jumping ahead. I mean, I talked about Kickapoo and Brimfield.
Oh, yeah. So I lived in Peoria.
Your story didn't start. Yeah, your story didn't start in Dunlap.
Didn't start in marriage. So, yeah. So, I was born in Florida, moved and lived in Alabama for a little while. And ironically, Haleyville, Alabama, which I joke with my wife when we come back because it's spelled the exact same way. I'm like, the queen is here. Finally. Has come back to her city, which is, well, not a city. It's a tiny, tiny town. But I lived there for a while and then moved up because my dad got a job up here in old Peoria, P-Town Brown. And lived there pretty much most of my life. And then didn't move till I got married. And then we quickly moved to Dunlap, which is right outside of Peoria. About as far as Kickapoo, I think. Maybe a little bit closer. But
depends on what part of Peoria you're talking about. But if you're talking about like downtown, then Dunlap's closer. But if you're talking about, semantics.
Yeah, really, it's not that big. But anyway, so we moved out there for like 9 months. Then we moved right back to Peoria. And lived in a little cottage house, which actually was kind of fun. And it was like an old cottage house that was just in the back of this person's house, and it was super cheap. And we lived in there, and it was quite cozy. It was 1 bedroom, 1 bath. I think it was like a total of, 600 square feet maybe. It was very small, but it was a cozy little place. And then And then,
I got my real estate license and totally screwed your life up.
Yep. You got us this house. And now this is where we've been for the past 6.5 years. So
there you are.
Yeah. There you go. That's the end. Not anything special, really.
Just well, certainly, obviously, speaking of segues, didn't start out in private security. Man, these freaking June bugs come on after my
trying to kill you.
Get out of here. You're not invited to this podcast. I don't want you to be the first guest. So I didn't start out in private security. God, actually, 100%, the position that I'm currently holding is all because of God. I was almost actively resisting it actually when it happened, but I got the job at PacSun, which y'all should know by now if you watched the first episode. When I met my wife, from there I got a job at Maui Gym, sunglasses, and that was a rut. I mean, it was fun because I was young and they really encourage partying and all that fun stuff. And then I got married and realized I was stuck in a rut and needed to grow up and mature. And I left and then fell into the car business. And that was a nightmare for about 2 years, but it taught me a lot, that I don't like selling cars because I don't really care that much. I don't want to force you into a car that you don't want. And, I was like, oh, you don't want that one? We don't have what you want? Cool. Talk to you later. And my managers didn't like that very much. Yeah. So, but, it kind of showed me that I somewhat enjoyed sales. And so then my mom had become a real estate agent in that time. And so she encouraged me to become a real estate agent. And I actually really did love that. And Mom, if you're watching this, I really did love real estate. I just suck at admin stuff. I'm terrible at admin stuff. If I could be a real estate agent and have a secretary to do all the admin stuff, sign me up all day long. I'll walk you through your house. I'll build a relationship with you. You know what I mean? I'll sell your house. I'll represent you. But paperwork, not my style. So I did that for 2 years in Illinois, then moved to Texas. And I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license in Texas. And then I was like, it requires me to do everything over again. And it's a lot. So better get a part-time job. And then while I had that part-time job, I stumbled across this contracting company. They kind of found me actually on Indeed. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to do that. That sounds awesome. And so I did it 5 months after we moved to Texas. So I took my wife away from her entire family and all of her friends and everybody that she knew and loved. And then I said, I'm out. I'm going to Afghanistan for
promptly abandoned her.
Not exactly how that happened, but it was, 5 months after we moved, I was in Afghanistan. And then I was there for, like I said, 8-9 months. I got back and the plan was for me to go back actually to Afghanistan, but then Caitlin got pregnant and that changes a lot of things. So then I stayed and I got a job at a gun range. Not just any gun range. There it is. Reppin'. Y'all can be a sponsor if you want.
There you go.
But it is a premier style gun range. It is very different from any other indoor gun range I've ever been to. And it was a ton of fun. I was like, I'm going to own this place someday. That's what's going to happen. This is where God wants me. I'm going to run this place that everybody get out of my way. And that was my goal. And then there was far too many roadblocks. But I was like, I don't care. I'm going to plow through these roadblocks. And I kind of got myself into a rut and I didn't realize it, honestly. And then my last boss was a member at the range and we'd have conversations in line all the time. And one day he was like, hey, I manage this security team, the private security team in Austin, and I got an opening and I want you to apply for it. And I'm like, yeah, maybe. Give me your number. Maybe I'll shoot you a text. I didn't. And, I put his number in my notes, but not my contacts. And then I, again, didn't reach out, but then the very next day he came back and he was like, hey, and I'm like, oh yeah, crap. Okay. Hey, here's my number, sort of thing. And he went out onto the range, and while on our range, he was texting me and was like, hey man, I really want you to apply for this job. Like I'm rooting for you. I really want you to apply. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just going to be here. I'm going to be a manager. This is fun. And I was really like actively resisting it. And finally he convinced me enough, like, you know what? Okay, I'll apply. What's the harm in applying? Like, let's look into it. Let's see what the pay is like. 'Cause I was getting paid garbage at the range. And we were paying our babysitter more than what I was getting paid at the range, and until I demanded a dollar raise so I could at least match our babysitter, so I wasn't losing money while I was working. And so it all led into this job, and it literally up until the point he offered me the job, I was still like not sure. And then I'm like, okay, what about this? And every time I'd have an objection, he'd answer it. And then it was like, sweet, sign me up. Let's go. So I signed up, joined the team. 2 months later, he was like, hey, he pulled me aside. He was like, so I've got another job. I'm going to be working, same company, but a different location. And my position's going to be open and I want you to apply for it. And I'm like, 2 months ago, I was working at a gun range. Like, what are you talking about? I just got here. I'm still on my probationary period. And he was like, yeah, I want you to apply for my job. Super awesome dude. Phil, if you're watching, I love you to death. One of my favorite people, and just the most encouraging person you could possibly imagine. And so just encouraged me to apply for his job. And I did, and against my better judgment. And then I got it. And literally on the 90th day, which is the last day of my probation for the company, I got the official job offer. And after my probation was up, and I've been here ever since. And God has put me here. God worked through Phil, and God was like, I don't care what you say, you idiot, accept this gift, because you're going to want it. I promise. So Here I am.
And look at you now.
Mm-hmm.
Look at you now.
Living the high life.
That's right. Yeah, ironically, my job came from my father-in-law. I was
really?
in school. Yeah, I was in school doing just trying to work out counseling stuff. And actually, it was during Bradley. And I knew I wanted to be a counselor, but I was like far off. I was in my bachelor's at Bradley University, and I needed a bachelor's internship just for the summer. And so my
your current position came from your father-in-law, or your career field? So what made you want to be a counselor? Because that's actually something that I don't really like your path into that, right? Because American Eagle counselor.
Yeah, so that one is going to have to be a completely separate podcast, because there's much more in depth over on time for that. Yeah, so we'll save that one. We'll notate it down for another one. But
let's do a part 2 on us. I mean,
there you go.
Why not?
Yeah,
let's have like a part 10 on us. You know what I mean?
There you go. It'll just be the podcast about us. That's all it's going to be. It's just us. But that one's a little bit more complicated. So I'll just tell you how I got my current position, and then we'll do the backstory next time, because that one's a little bit more. But yeah, my current position, I was at Bradley, had to get an internship. My father-in-law was like, hey, I know a guy who has a Christian counseling organization. You should see if he's got anything available. And then I did, and ended up going through that. Super awesome. I was like, I love this company. This is so great. And so about a month in, they were like, hey, you should stay and score a psychological test for us. And I had a current job, but I was like, oh, I could do that part-time. And so then I stayed on there, did that part-time, and then they were like, you fit really good. You should work here full-time and do like inner office stuff. So I started doing accounts receivable. So it was accounts receivable. And I took that full-time job, quit my other job, and then was there through my rest of my bachelor's, all the way through my master's, started internship there, and then stayed on and have been there, I think, a total of 7 years now. And 3.5 or 4 of those have been counseling. So, great organization. But yeah, it all started with the fact that my father-in-law was like, "Hey, I know where you should go," and that's how it got hooked up. So, and yeah, we'll have to do we'll do a part 2 to be able to include it all, because there's a lot of in-depth things on why I'm a counselor.
Well, I talk a lot. You know what I mean?
You do.
So
you do.
What are you going to do?
It's a lot. There's a lot going on there. But I think I think this is a good place for part 1 to be.
Good start.
Done.
Yeah. So we just scratched the surface of the complexity of the 2 most interesting men in the universe, named Kyle.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've never met 2 more interesting Kyles.
Truth. Facts. That is straight facts. But my cigar is done, and my whiskey is empty. So I think that is the signifying part that we are finished.
Yeah, I just had to kick a moth out of my whiskey because he was getting hammered.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us for this, whatever it was,
Whatever this is.
Yeah, for us recording what we would probably do anyway.
Exactly.
Smoke
cigars
thanks.
And talk.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Hope y'all are having as much fun as we are. Probably not, though.
Probably definitely not. But we're going to do
it
anyway.
Definitely not. So. Smoke a cigar with us. We should have said that at the beginning.
Oh, man. Say it now. I can move things around.
Yeah, just edit it.
Welcome. Come smoke a cigar with us.
Welcome to the podcast. We just lit it. It's brand new, I promise.
It's the tiniest cigar known to man.
Stop what you're doing right now. Go find a cigar and some whiskey.
Just run it inside. Start my second cigar.
Oh, man.
All right. Well, yeah. So
2 back-to-back.
I'm too old for that stuff. No, not for me. All right. Well,
so anyway, all you creeps out there, I hope this somewhat satisfied that, your nosiness and all that. And stop trying to dig into our lives. I want to be ambiguous.
Mind your business.
Yeah.
Mind your business.
Yeah. Get out of here. Seriously, leave.
No, but really. Goodbye.